I have 2 children. The story I'll be talking about today is, in regards to my second child. So by this stage, I'd already had 1 child, so I knew what it felt like to be in labour and understood sort of the signals from my body as to what was happening. So with the labour of my second child, I felt as though I needed to go to hospital at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and my sister came and took me. I speak with a pretty flat affect most of the time. I very rarely sound excited, angry. This is pretty much what you get most of the time with me. And if I'm tired or exhausted or in pain, it becomes even more flat. Um, so I generally won't scream at anything, even if I'm extremely angry or in a lot of pain. So back to the story. My sister came and got me at about 5 o'clock. We rang the midwife, turned up at the hospital, and they said I was about 3 to 4 centimeters dilated. The baby wasn't coming in to go home because I didn't look like I was in labor. And they said, but they kept me around for a little while for observation. I think that was about 2 hours. And we were left in a room, and my sister and I were just chatting and sort of passing time. At the end of it, I could tell that I was in active labor towards transition. And I was like, "Mandy, we can't go home. Like, I've got a toddler at home. I'm in active labor here. We cannot." And she's like, "I agree. I don't think it's super safe to be doing that. I don't really want to be delivering a baby." Um, and so when the midwife came back to sort of say, "Yep, okay, here's some painkillers, go home and rest," she was like, "You need to check her again because she needs to stay here." And I was like, and with this sort of level of tone and affect, I said, "Yeah, I really think I need to be here." And she's like, "No, if you were actually in active labor, you would be screaming and writhing in pain." And I'm like, "Well, I can tell you this is my second child and we are there." And she just didn't believe me and my sister at this time, and knowing that you cannot be too aggressive in hospitals, she was starting to lose her temper, and I'm like, "No, no, we have to leave the" I'm also very rules focused, so the nurse had made a rule to say that I had to go home, so I was like, "Okay." So we're in her car trying to figure out what to do because she lives about half an hour from this particular hospital. She didn't wanna take me there. We couldn't go to my house, which was about 15 minutes down the road because I had a toddler running around, and she thought we should stay in a hotel close by, so we were at least near. It turned out to be a little, bit of a moment where every room in the near the hotels near the hospital were completely full, so we ended up going back to her house. About half an hour after we got there, it became apparent that the baby was coming now. So this was within maybe an hour and a half of leaving the hospital. And I was crying because the nurse had said that we weren't allowed to go back. And I said, "But we can't break the rules." And she's like, "I don't really care." And she was agitated by this stage and really upset for me. So she got the midwife on the phone. The midwife said, "You can't come back. This baby's not being born today." My sister had a few strong words to say about that. And she said, I believe I remember her saying, "I don't think you really get to determine that. The baby has decided that they are coming." And we get in her car and race to the hospital. And I get there and she's still like, "Oh, yeah, this looks a little bit more like you're in labor." And my sister insisted on her checking me, and the baby was about to be born. So my sister called my husband to say, essentially, "Get here or you're going to miss the birth of your child." Took him about 15 minutes to get there. He was there for about 2, 3 minutes before the baby was born. So, um, this experience was extremely traumatic. It's 10 years ago, and it still sits with me and could have been completely avoided if she had have listened to the words that were coming out of my mouth as opposed to trying to read, body language or my tone. I think it was mostly during the birth part and it relates to that story. Um, I think sometimes midwives are used to reading body language, tone, and the likes to ascertain where where the person they're supporting is up to. And for someone like myself, that's just not accurate. I'm very accurate in the words that come out of my mouth. I always say how I'm feeling, where I'm up to, and all of that. Judging my tone or affect is just unreliable. I think the biggest difficulty with masking is that I can mask when I'm not tired. So, what masking is it's a tool that autistic people use either subconsciously or consciously to fit into the environment around them. For me, and that can look different from autistic person to autistic person. What it looks like for me is this is my natural speaking voice. It's my natural affect. I can find something ridiculously funny and not laugh unless I manually tell my brain to laugh. Like, oh, everyone else is laughing. We should probably laugh too. I can change the way that I speak if I have enough energy to do so. So I can be like, oh, hi, it's a great day today, kind of a thing. And I can do that. I don't like to because it's exhausting. So this is what you get most of the time. So what it meant in my story, I think, was the midwife got used to seeing throughout the different appointments, got used to seeing a masked version of me where I was a bit more expressive and I had tone because I was I was doing it very manually. Whereas when you're in labour, all of that your ability to do that just shuts down. So I think that's where she was seeing a disconnect and was like, oh no, this maybe subconsciously she was thinking, oh, I know this woman. I've talked to her. Like if she was in pain, she would be acting a different way.
Late parenthood.
I think there's a few things. When thinking about labour, specifically, pain tolerance is different for autistic people. And what I mean by it different is that there's something called interoception. So your brain's ability to pick up on all of those different internal signals like hunger and pain is one as well. And for a lot of us autistic people, we don't feel that same depth of pain. So that's one thing, I think, sensory-wise as well. I remember during my first labour, I had asked the woman to keep the door shut in the birthing room because the lights just felt like laser beams. Once again, didn't know why that was at the time. That information would have been really handy prior to this. But it was making me feel quite aggressive as well. I wasn't feeling safe. So sensory things as well, and being really aware of that birthing person's sensory profile to be able to sort of accommodate those needs during labour. I think they're really important. I think regarding the whole process, some really important things are making sure they know what comes next in the process, because you don't having a baby is not something you do frequently for most people anyway. And knowing first of all, at the first appointment, knowing what the whole process is going to look like for them and what that's going to mean for them and what they're going to have to do is really important. But then at each appointment, knowing what comes next, I think is really important, and being really clear when communicating with an autistic person who's pregnant. I think ensuring that your language is literal and clear is really important, and listening to mothers as well. They know their body best, so really listening to the words that are coming out of their mouth, not just how they look or how they seem.